After decades of lackluster economic development, Nigeria, one of the top two largest economic on the African continent, is under a major transformation under the Tinubu administration. And the world is paying closer attention to what this administration is doing to deliver for the Nigerian people as well as the private sector. At the World Bank IMF spring meeting, I sat down for a conversation with the Director General of the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, Mr. Ben Akabueze, for a conversation on how the government is delivering for is building trust as well as rebuilding the economic to deliver for the Nigerian people. Listen to the conversation.
Well, the overarching goal for government is to raise growth to near double-digit levels over the next 7 years by 2030, and to get the economy to at least $1 trillion GDP by 2030. That process also make the growth inclusive. So, much more rapid, inclusive and sustainable, growth. That's, when you unpack it, two big pieces. On the fiscal side, fiscal consolidation is the, overarching, policy direction, and on the monetary side, it's price stability. So, price stability. So central banks going back to orthodox central bank. Price stability as its core. So going back to inflation targeting. And so that's how I would sketch
The overall
direction of travel. As for option, what government is doing is focusing on basically tackling corruption and at its root, a more systemic approach to dealing with corruption rather than just chasing people who have found with their hands in the jar around the place, and then making it difficult for them to access it in the first place. So there's a lot of deployment of technology. That's something that is the government has made clear. It's going to so that eliminate all of this. There's currently a comprehensive review of all tax legislation and fiscal policies at a scale never
seen before
in the country. Every single and in that whole process also is plugging loopholes that make that create avenues for leakages and all of those sort of things, and then there's is reinvigorated a performance management framework for the government-owned enterprises that hold those who manage those more accountable. Given the overall, the president has set up a delivery unit that is evaluating ministries. Everybody's scorecard on a regular basis and reporting and scoring. Just make sure that everybody's on their toes and heading in the same direction.
Driving the economic transformation steering wheels is President Bola Tinubu, the former two-term governor of Lagos State, the country's commercial capital, who was credited with improving the state finance through better tax collection enforcement and enacting a public transport project that addressed the city traffic gridlock. The Tinubu administration came to office last year and instituted new reforms that have pulled the country off a fiscal cliff. The government National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy (NEET) agenda focused on four key main areas: improving macroeconomic conditions, structural reform including privatization, banking sector and civil society, and a trade policy. Thirdly, strengthen public expedition management, and finally, implementation of institutional and governance reform were all designed to address the country's fiscal challenges and promote economic stability. This is next month we mark the first anniversary of the Tinubu administration. You came in with an agenda to turn things around. And here at the World Bank annual spring meeting. So talk to us about the conversation that you and your delegation have been having here.
Well, basically, the Nigerian delegation here has been led by Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, who with the Governor of the Central Bank, Nigeria's governors to the IMF and the World Bank, and you know, it's a very different reception generally that the team has had around here from 1 year back, when there were lots of concerns about the direction of travel of the Nigerian economy, whether in terms of fiscal policy, monetary policy, and the reform agenda then seems to be floundering. And of course, it was also 1 year ago the government was in its lame dog phase, just waiting to and today there's been a lot packed into the first 9 months of the current administration. The administration has surpassed all bets in terms of the pace of reforms, and everyone agrees that these were not easy things to do. I mean, pretty big elephants in the room, and had been loitering in the room for a long while, and there was a great difficulty of moving them out of the room, dance around the elephant. This government came and foolishly, kicked the elephants out of the room at a faster pace than anyone. And then also, and that is, fortuitous, because sometimes reforms can go, dangerously wrong in terms of outcomes. And at the early stages, things seemed to, flounder a bit with inflation spiking, the naira, seeming to get into a free fall, and some governments may have panicked at that stage and pressed the pause button. But the government was very reassured that it was on the right path, and that and it just kept appealing to the public for patience to begin to see the positive outcomes, and where there was a need to reset things, to adjust here and there. And there's stronger collaboration between fiscal and monetary authorities, with strong leadership from the president. I think all culminated in getting us to where we are today, where we're now beginning to see the benefits of the reforms, and even the most ardent critics and naysayers are conceding that the direction of travel is the right one.
Let's talk about some of those reforms. I know the population, as you mentioned, are still wary, especially about some of the subsidies move that the government made. And in one of the conversations that have been going on today is there is a huge gap between what the government is doing and what the public understand about why the governments are making such a move, like the fiscal policy and budget, because there isn't a lot of education, there isn't a lot of conversation with the public. So let's talk about those some of those moves that you've made to turn things around in the direction that even the IMF right now, I mean, they've always been supportive, as you say, coming back a year later on, the government, the Nigerian government delegation can hold their head up high.
Well, first of all, I'm not so sure it's down to communication. Of course, government can always do better in terms of communicating policies and its direction of travel. But you know, for some people, their opposition to the reform is ideological. There's nothing you can do. There are people who don't believe in free markets. People whose ideology tends more towards socialism. There's nothing you can do to persuade them, even when the benefits are that. Secondly, the truth of the matter is that, at least in this short term, the reforms are painful, and the pain is real for most people and most families. Incomes haven't risen, but then to match the pace at which the subsidies have been pulled back. So oftentimes people judge government policy by the impact on them as individuals rather than the country. It's government job is to look at the whole and do what's best for the largest numbers of the people. But at the level of individuals, everyone looks after their own. So for those for whom this has represented more, you can expect them to feel sore about it and feel believing. Secondly, growth. Economic growth is still tepid, marginally above population growth rate. The growth rates need to at least double the level they are today before the large majority of Nigerians begin to feel it. And as the pace of growth grows, also the inclusiveness of that growth. So people, so but when you still have a large number of people out of and this it is based on an understanding of this, that government has embarked on a fairly ambitious social protection program across different strands, especially targeted at the most vulnerable. While you're feeding through these reforms, that people who need some kind of opinion. But even that itself is not devoid of criticism. There are those who don't believe in those. But it's been proven that, and the US economy is one proof that those social protection measures do work. Look, the US economy is among the developed economies, the only one that has gone back to pre-COVID level growth.
Even raising above.
Even above, okay. And I told you that all of that, money that we're putting in the hands of consumers, which led to inflationary spikes, have contributed in sustaining, demand for goods, and therefore kept industrial and whatever this thing. And so, and in reality, sometimes it's possible to have both inflation and growth growing. So, and then now, so if you've got inflation, they haven't seen growth. Whereas in some of the other countries that didn't do that path, you've seen inflation, you haven't seen growth. So I think that despite the opposition, the government is committed to that. The only thing is that those, whether it's conditional cash transfers, there's been a pause them to ensure that they're delivered more transparently, especially using technology.
So you, as the budget manager, and speaking of US, you met with the Treasury deputy yesterday. What conversation are you having with the US? I know the Biden-Harris administration is very, very committed to Nigeria investment. So talk about the conversation that you are having. We are at the World Bank in DC here. US is the largest, one of the two largest economic, and the private sectors have been in Nigeria for quite a while now. There was a report in one of the business publication, that said there are multinational companies are leaving Africa, are leaving Nigeria as well. So could you talk about the conversation you are having, what you are hearing from the private sectors, American private sectors, about the work that you're doing?
I think, across board, the meetings, whether the bilateral meetings with the US and other countries, with multilateral finance institutions, or with groups of investors, I think it's been a consistent one, an appreciation of the bold efforts and reform, and an affirmation that that's the way to go, and a pledge for support to this thing, as long as there is a sense that there's commitment to stay the course of reforms. And, everyone, it's never been in doubt about the potential of the Nigerian economy and the place. It's the largest economy on the continent, and the significance of Nigeria as a regional economic powerhouse. And so I think all that we need to do on our part now is just stay the course and patience, and then because trust has been ruptured in the past, and so there is a rebuilding. So when you begin to do the right things, first there is a wait and see period where this is for real, this is sustained, and then once people
say that. Okay, I know. Thank you so much. There's so much conversation to talk about Bitcoin and so many other things. We will get to it some other time. I hope to talk with you more about this. But thank you. I know you're busy and making this time for us. As a proud Nigerian, American, we are keeping an eye on this, and we are sharing the government talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.